All right, it is time to have our Arkansas football update with Otis Kirk. He's joining me right now. And Otis, let's talk about one of the newest commitments for Arkansas. It's Patrick Foley, a guy from Omaha, a 2021 punter.
Yeah, he's a kid that Arkansas started reaching out to. Scott Fountain apparently really likes that kid. He's one of the best punters in the country. He looked at some other schools. Nebraska was showing interest. He had some offers, but he chose to commit to Arkansas this week. He brings, he does it all for them. He's friends with Cameron Little. They're familiar with each other. The kicker from Oklahoma City, the kicker from Oklahoma that's committed to Arkansas. But Patrick will concentrate on punts at Arkansas. He's averaging about 39.4 yards a punt this year on 27 punts. That's net average. That's not just kicking it and then they return it 100 yards. He's actually averaging that for net punts. I asked him why he chose Arkansas, and he said it was simple. It was the coaches. Scott Fountain and bombarded him with letters and stuff. I mean, really showed that he wanted him, Tara. I mean, that was the difference there. Some schools wanted him, but Scott Fountain showed him how bad he really wanted him. And, so he'll come in next year and have a chance to compete for that punting job.
Well, let's talk about A.J. Green. He is out of Tulsa, 4-star running back. What can you tell us about him?
Well, I can tell you they started off super slow this season, Tara. They were 0-4 to start the season. But now that's a little misleading. They were playing maybe the four best teams in Oklahoma. So it wasn't like they were losing to nobodies. But the last 2 weeks, they have beaten, they won big the last 2 weeks. They beat Moore 62-12 Thursday night. And also, that was their first home game. They're redoing Union Tuttle Stadium. If anybody hasn't been to that stadium, it's one of the best high school stadiums I've ever been to. It's an excellent stadium, but they're even building onto it and doing more stuff to it. And but that was their first home game. They had one scheduled earlier in the season that got canceled because of the COVID stuff. But there again, the other night, he had 154 yards on 18 carries with 3 touchdowns, had a 32-yard run called back because of a holding call on one of the players. But he's one of Arkansas's highest rated commitments. He and Keytron Jackson, probably the 2 highest off the top of my head. But AJ is a kid that can come in. You've got Rakeem Boyd as a senior. AJ can come in next year and make a big impact at Arkansas immediately. He's they've got 2 running backs committed, and it's kind of oddly enough, they're both from Oklahoma. In that victory the week before, they beat Mustangs 66-10. He rushed 13 times for 228 yards and 3 touchdowns in that, and he had an 84-yard touchdown called back. I think we talked about that game last week, but I don't want to talk about the same players every week. But A.J. Green is a player that everybody's interested in, and he's somebody that will come into Arkansas and make a quick and definite impact. And I mean a big impact immediately.
Well, one of the Arkansas recruits was actually on campus this week, and you got to hang out with him, Josh Hinman, out of Jonesboro. What did you guys talk about?
It's kind of weird because they were at the football game. He and his 2 brothers and his mother and dad were at the football game, but he's a baseball commitment. But just for information, kind of a background, he's an offensive lineman for the Jonesboro football team that's 4-2. Mississippi State recruiting coordinator reached out to him this week about the football scholarship, about possibly playing football at Mississippi State. I don't think that's an option for Josh because he's a big Razorback fan. But yeah, we talked about about the game, about Hudson Clark, and about like everybody got to bring up Hudson Clark, and about just the offensive line, how he thinks they did. That's what he watches. He's big about watching the offensive line when it comes to football because that's what he plays and that's what he really knows. But he was talking about how Arkansas is really just standing out this year. They're playing hard. They're doing the things to win games. And he was amazed by the defense. I mean, just like everybody else. He's 6'4", 240. He's a pitcher, and he can bring it. I asked him, what do you do well, kind of on the baseball diamond? And he said he commands the strike zone. He can come in and start and give you several innings because he can throw strikes, or he can come in and give you 1 or 2 innings out of the bullpen. So he can do both. And I asked him, because at one time he was possibly interested in playing football. Yeah. And I asked him, I said, is there any chance you change your mind and end up playing for the Razorback football team? And he said, baseball is his first love. That's what his love is, and I know, he's really good at baseball. He's got a chance, plays for the Arkansas State. He's got a chance to go beyond SEC in baseball. I mean, he's got a chance to be pitching on big leagues one of these days, Tara. He's that good. He's big, can bring it. Kind of a bigger Connor Nolan, I guess you could say. I mean, he kind of reminded me a little bit of Connor on the mound, but he's bigger than Connor. And, he's just a junior in high school. For people who don't know, this kid's got another year of high school, and it's going to be scary how good he is. His grandfather once was on the board of trustees at U of A. Just great family. I mean, we had breakfast together this morning. Just absolutely great family. I really admire the entire family. It's doing my job, getting to know people like this, like the Coleys last week, and like a bunch of other people I've got to know. It's just awesome to have a feeling that you're talking to good people. Arkansas's coaches, whether it be Pittman, Van Horn, Musselman, Harder, any of those guys, they're recruiting good people, Tara. And that is, they're recruiting great athletes, but they're also recruiting good people. And that makes a difference, believe me.
Well, hey, you talked about Hudson Clark right there earlier. Just one of, actually a couple of walk-ons or former walk-ons as well at Arkansas that have started to make an impact for this team.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at this team. I mean, when people talk about, when I write about walk-ons, sometimes people roll their eyes and think, hey, he's a walk-on. Let's talk about the 4- and 5-star kids. Let's talk about walk-ons. Let's go back to the walk-ons. You had Hudson Clark, cornerback, 3 interceptions. Grant Morgan, former walk-on, 19 tackles, interception, pick 6 for a touchdown. A sack or 2. I had to say, I think a tackle or 2 for losses. Had it on the website last night. But I mean, just an outstanding game. Ty Clary, former walk-on, starting right guard last night for the Razorbacks, came in, played well the week before. He started a lot of games while he's at Arkansas. Jack Lindsey went back to holding last night. Played some quarterback. Simeon Blair rotated in at safety. Kid was from Pine Bluff, a former walk-on who got a scholarship right before the season started. Hayden Henry with Bumper Pool out with his rib injuries. Hayden Henry steps in there and starts at linebacker. So both linebackers, we talk about Hudson, but look, both linebackers yesterday, Grant Morgan and Hayden Henry were former walk-ons. So, I mean, Luke Jones has played. Blake Kern had some big catches yesterday at tight end. Tyson Morris had I remember an outstanding catch he made. I'm sure you remember he was diving and he caught the ball. It was almost about ready to hit the ground and he pulled it in. Nathan Perotti, Jordan Silver, the deep snapper. John David White played yesterday. Reed Bauer punted yesterday. And Vito Calvaruso kicked off. I can just go on and on. I mean, when you think about it, I know when we write these stories, me and the other recruiting guys about these walk-ons, people don't get excited about it like they do a 4 or 5-star kid. And I get that. But I'm telling you, they make a big impact and they are making a huge impact at the University of Arkansas this season.
Yeah, Otis, it's not always about the stars that you have coming out of high school.
It's about the size of that Valentine sometime. I mean, that hard. I'm telling you, Grant Morgan, Hudson Clark, those are guys, all those kids like that. They grew up. Yeah. Hudson Clark's grandparents lived in Arkansas. Both parents went to Arkansas. Grant Morgan, we know what. I had a guy, my son texted me yesterday during the game and said, gosh, I wish there was another Morgan. Drew Morgan, Grant. You just love kids like that just go out and bust their rear. Simeon Blair could have gone to other schools. Hayden Henry, he could have easily said, no, they're going to give Hudson a scholarship. We know that. They hadn't at the time, but they will. Hunter was up there. I should get a scholarship. No, he checked his ego into the door, took this walk-on, played a semester, and then got a scholarship. And he was kind of promised that scholarship after a semester, but regardless, he went up there for a semester without it. And just those kids like that, Tara, they have such big hearts, and they will die on the field for you. I mean, they will kill themselves out there, busting their rears to make the University of Arkansas what it appears to be that Sam Pittman's got to go. Sam Pittman reminds me of an Arkansas walk-on. He loves it. He wasn't guy when they hired him. Everybody, ESPN, everybody went, wow, what a great hire. No, everybody kind of questioned the hire, said, oh, Arkansas's lost 20 or however many games they'd lost at the time in the SEC programs and things. They couldn't get anyone else, and they get Sam Pittman, and now he's beating Mike Leach, he's beating Lane Kiffin, he's got the Missouri coach coming up later on. I mean, I'm telling you, Sam Pittman. If you want to talk about walk-ons at Arkansas, I'm going to talk about Sam Pittman. Tim Fight's what a walk-on football player is all about. Guys like Grant Morgan, Hudson Clark, Simeon Blair, just Blake Kern, all those guys. Hayden Henry. It's just awesome. Ty Clary, just to see those guys having success. I love it when walk-ons have success.
Yeah, I think we all do. It's also nice when the team is being successful. So we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. Otis Kirk, thank you so much for your time. That's going to do it for our football update. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you, Tara. Thanks for having me on.